Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Edina. I'm Sam Thompson. I'm proud to be your 66th president.
Yeah, baby!
Woo-hoo! We're coming to you live from the Edina Country Club and also on Zoom. We have 56 people that have pre-registered live and 20 that are on Zoom with us today. And we have a packed schedule. So I'm going to go right into member update. Past President Tim Murphy, who was home again after a massive heart attack, was back in the hospital last night. And he actually is going to stay tonight too. He had a minor setback, but they're being cautious. So they're going to keep him another night. So keep your thoughts and prayers with Tim. And Jeff O's son, Torger, was a medalist on 422 with the Edina High School golf tournament. He had the lowest round. And get this, he's an 8th grader. Can you believe it? With high schoolers. He's a future John Flynn.
It's amazing you're even involved, Joe.
Who says I am?
Are you awake?
Okay, another update we've got for you here. Steve Slyce, I know Steve's in the room. He retired from Peter's Billiards yesterday. 44 years. That's his photo on the right is his first day at Peter's. So I love the 70s hairstyle. And Steve gave me a quote. He said, Steve's quote is, "I've had the fortune to have a career I really loved. Makes it easier that way." So he's stepping back. He's going to spend more time with family and friends. He says he's going to be the best grandpa ever. And he said he's just a few $100s away in toys from being that. Okay, Rotary in the news. Our district conference is this Saturday, May 1st. It's in Brooklyn Park. It's going 10 to 2. Tim Murphy will be getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. And the Edina Rotary Global Scholars will be getting an award also. And Lindsay Smaka, I believe, is in the room. I thought I saw her. She'll be, yep, there she is over in the back. She'll be receiving that award. Our first 20 members get to go free. So just go to rotary5950.org to register. You do need to pay by credit card and then turn in your receipt to Becky to be reimbursed. I think we have about 12 spots still open. And one more announcement, our Rotaract Club, which is our Young Professionals Club, they have a spring into summer kickoff that'll be on May 20th, goes 5 to 7 at Wooddale Park. It's a picnic, and they're looking for new members. So invite people that may fit. As a Rotaractor, they'll have food and beverage provided. Birthdays, we have 3 birthdays this next week, so happy birthday. And we have Rotary Anniversaries. We have 5 anniversaries this next week, so congratulations. And assisting off podium, our greeter, Kayla Beeler. Our Zoom greeter, Charlie Bear. Front desk is Mary Swenson, helping Becky. Photographer working the room is Rick Carlson. And AV support today is Scott Blake. Hey. With that, I'd like to call up Tom Cook for the Invocation Pledge and the 4-way test.
16 years after Rotary was founded in Chicago in 1905, there were Rotary clubs active on 6 continents around the globe. A distinct feature of our association is the ongoing intention to form inclusive societies for humankind, forging bonds of cooperation that transcend solely personal or national interests and boundaries to make a better world for all people and indeed for all life on the planet. This Saturday, May 1st, marks the beginning of a 30-day observance in this country of Asian Pacific and American Heritage Month. The contributions of these Americans and their ancestors to our society come as no surprise to Rotarians, and certainly not to members of the Rotary Club of Edina, given that we share in regular fellowship with some incredible members who are of this particular heritage. In a time when the nation is giving attention again to the prejudice and violence that too many citizens show toward Asian Americans, I'm grateful to be part of an organization that knows differently and that celebrates the mutual good that comes from being different people together. John O'Donohue wrote that real friendship is not manufactured or achieved solely through an act of will or intention. Rather, it comes also from an act of recognition. We see another person and we recognize that we share the same clay, John's word. Rotarians recognize that we're all made of the same stuff of life from which all other people are made, and that recognition and the fellowship that grows from it, makes us stronger and more fully human. Let us pray. Draw us together, O Creator, in continuing bonds of mutual respect, that our associations in this room and our associations spread around the world may lead to service for all humankind. We thank you in particular this day for those Asian and Pacific Island Americans who enrich the membership of Rotary throughout the world and in this club. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Of the things that we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Don Hutchison here. We're going to introduce a short list of guests today. First of all, I'd like to introduce here at the front table, Brendan Cassidy. If you could just stand up, wave to the nice people. Brendan is business development at M Health Fairview and is here with our speaker today. And then seated right to his left is Rob Grumman. Rob Grumman's actually my guest. Rob is, well, he's sort of retired, but he's now working with Brad Beard up at Essentia in a consulting capacity. And he also was, in his pre-retirement role, was in charge of the facilities for all of corporate Fairview system. So welcome, Brendan. Welcome, Rob. Are there any other guests or visiting Rotarians? Seeing none? Thank you.
Well, this is fun. It's great to see everybody here. Rob, welcome. It's good to see you again. I'm Doug Johnson. I'm on the Local Grants Committee, chaired by one of our more incredible Rotary members, Kelly Burnett. And we had a wonderful year this year. And today, we're welcoming and celebrating an organization that is really life-changing for kids that live in Minneapolis. Hope Academy was granted $2,040 from our club, and now you'll have an opportunity to see how they're making a difference in our greater Twin City area. And we welcome Julia Madigan on the left, or on your right, left, right, I'll get it right. I need a little help with school. And Jamie Olson, who's going to share about Hope with you. So come on up, Jamie.
Thanks, Doug. Thank you all for having us today and for the grant that you provided for our students this school year to purchase more iPads and be able to keep that connection with students all year long. My name is Jamie Olson, and I just want to give a little brief encouraging update on how your support has made a difference this school year and to share some good news. We've had a lot of bad news this year and want to encourage you today. So first, I want to tell you about one of our students named Sophia. Last spring, Sophia was struggling and falling far behind in reading. When our teachers discovered that she actually had some learning disabilities, Sophia and her mom were devastated. Then COVID hit. As the world shut down and most kids went weeks without school, Sophia's teachers leaned in and actually stepped up their support. Fighting through internet and scheduling issues and the huge technology learning curve, Sophia's teacher made a plan to meet with her via Zoom for tutoring every day, Monday through Friday, March through September. Sophia went from not being able to read sight words to reading full books by the end of the summer. Yeah. Her demeanor, confidence, and joy have skyrocketed, and she's like a different person. At a time when so many kids in our city and country are falling behind in learning, Sophia is gaining ground. She now loves school and is really excited to get on the bus every morning. And so what made that possible for her? It was the incredible love and dedication of her teacher, and then also the gift of iPads that you helped purchase for her and other students to stay connected. On behalf of our students and teachers and staff and parents, thank you for making these connections possible to enhance the learning of our students and keep all of us pressing forward in such a challenging year. I wanted to share just briefly what this school year has looked like at Hope Academy. So because of your support, we were able to offer parents the choice of in-person, hybrid, or distance learning for their students. And we've had about 75% of our 545 students doing in-person or hybrid learning all year. We've had 96% attendance for online and in-person learners this year, which we're extremely grateful for. And as more information emerges about the devastating impact of the COVID learning loss, particularly on low-income children of color in Minneapolis and St. Paul who haven't had in-person learning for a year, we're extremely grateful to see students moving forward and gaining ground. Our goal is to welcome 45 more students this fall for in-person learning, each of whom need a financial sponsor. So on behalf of the students and parents and families of Hope Academy, I want to thank you again for your generous support and the difference you're making for our students this year. Julie and I would be happy to chat with anyone after if you have questions, and thank you again.
Let's all do it together. Okay.
Good afternoon. We are excited to bring back our live in-person vocational happy hours starting this coming Wednesday, May 5th. We're going to have a combination of both live and Zoom, but it's going to be held this Wednesday starting at 5:30 at the new CW Bar and Grill at the intersection of 84th and Normandale Boulevard. You'll be getting a registration link. The happy hour social time starts at 5:30, goes till 6, and then the presentation is 6 to 7. And we're excited to have Lindsay Smaka from Edina High School is going to present. And of course, as we saw, she's got an award she'll be winning, so it's going to be great. She's been a member for a little over a year. So again, that's this coming Wednesday at 5:30. Hope all of you can join us, and we'll look forward to seeing you then.
Good afternoon. My name is Kris and I'm here today to introduce Julie Westbrook. I have known Julie for, 7, 8 years? We've come together through Parkinson's because each one of our parents had Parkinson's. So during the time that I have known her, we have worked with the Parkinson's Association to develop the golf tournament. And all during that time, I've had opportunity to be around her. So I can tell you that over my 40 years of practice in the law, I have developed a very, very highly sensitized bullshit radar. And during this time and all of the times that I have met with Julie, the radar has never gone off. So I would like today to tell you that she is an employee of TrustPoint, and her classification will be trusts and estates and financial issues. I think she will be a great, great addition to Rotary. She is a person of few words, so when she talks, you need to listen. Congratulations, Julie. I have to read that?
Yeah.
You guys have heard this 150,000 times.
151.
151, here we go. I, Kris, as a member of the Rotary Club of Edina, and on behalf of our entire membership, we welcome you as a new member to our club. Please join the friendship that we share. and in the passion that we hope for projects that will make our community and world a better place to live. Rotary is an organization of business and professional people who desire to uphold high professional standards in their vocations. As an employee of TrustPoint, your classification will be trusts, estates, and financial services. Please get involved by joining one of our many committees. By doing this, you will get to know more of us, and you will find a true value of Rotary's motto, service above self. Julie, at this time now, I present you with a pin and the membership information. You can take 2 words and be done. You're prepared.
Thank you very much, Kris. When it comes to BS, I'll say, you know what, it definitely takes one to know one. Okay. Oh, I said when it comes to the BS radar, it takes one to know one. First of all, thank you very much for welcoming me. It's been a great experience thus far, and I really appreciate everybody being so kind. I am originally from Minnesota. I grew up in Grove Heights, sandwiched in between 2 brothers. All 3 of us were very active in sports. It was the way that my parents kept us out of trouble. I did my undergrad at Cornell in Ithaca, New York. I played fast pitch softball all 4 years that I was there. That does make me a popular recruit for co-ed slow pitch. However, I was a pitcher that had a designated hitter, so I'm not very useful on a slow pitch team. After undergrad, I moved to New York City and I lived there for 2 years. And then I missed the slower paced life of the Midwest, so I moved back to Minnesota to get my law degree at William Mitchell. This is, well, you saw the Westbrock, Wendland, Healy blended family. My son Sean is on the left. He's 12 and very musically gifted. He enjoys the Beatles and 70s and 80s rock and roll. And I mean Kiss, AC/DC, Ozzy Osbourne, Van Halen. He's really quite a character. While he does not actually have any facial hair, he likes to use Old Spice aftershave after showers. My husband Jason is a wonderful man who served our country as a mechanic in the Army for over a decade. He has spent time in telecom, framing houses, doing appliance repair. He's currently starting his own business doing home remodels. So needless to say, this is a guy that can fix anything, build anything, and he cooks. So I'm a very lucky woman. Jason has 3 children, Matt, Kenzie, and Kayla. They are all in their 20s. They're all out of the house, finding their way and building their life. So most of the time our house is pretty quiet. This is a little project that Jason and Sean are working on. Those 2 are the best of buds, which is fantastic, and I absolutely love to watch them together. I practiced law for almost 10 years doing estate planning before joining up with TrustPoint. TrustPoint is a professional fiduciary, so we will act as trustee or executor as part of an estate plan. My job is to speak with anyone who may be interested in our services. I love my job because I really feel like our company fulfills a need. Those individuals who just don't have somebody else to name in a document, or they just don't want to burden a loved one with managing their estate. We also help out with individuals who maybe just lost a spouse and the decedent spouse was the one that managed all of the finances. What I really like about our job is that we can help families that may have special needs individuals in the family, a member with mental illness, or perhaps a chemical dependency. Those individuals that are just really worried about what's going to happen to their family member after they're gone. As Kris mentioned, I am on the board for the Minnesota chapter of the Parkinson's Foundation. I'm also a member of the development committee for the National Foundation. Something most people don't know about me, I have been inducted into both my high school and collegiate athletic hall of fame. I was actually the first softball player ever at Cornell to be inducted. But also, I have milked a cow. My parents both grew up on dairy farms, and while I grew up in the city, I still had country cousins, and the city cousins got to spend a week with the country cousins every summer. So it was a great opportunity for me to experience a different way of life. Thank you again for welcoming me into your club. I'm very happy to be here.
Thanks, Julie, and welcome. Nice to have you with us. Okay, quick announcement. Summer Camp P is coming up June 21st through the 24th. It's for 8th to 10th graders. And it's a lemonade stand challenge, and we need mentors and judges. So please see me or Scott Blake if you're interested. Now for our program. And Wade Thommen will be introducing our speaker today. Wade is has been a member of the Edina Noon Rotary since 2005. And he's been on various committees: the Speaker Committee, Student Speaker Committee, Local Grants, Social Committee, and the Vocational Happy Hour. He currently is a sales manager for Coldwell Banker Edina Regional Office. He's lived in Edina for 24 years. He's married to his wife, Brenda, for 29. Brenda is retiring in May after 41 years with Health Partners. They have 2 daughters, Callie and Sarah. And his daughter Callie and her husband Charlie are expecting their first child in June. Congratulations, great. Please welcome up Wade.
Thank you. Today we have Dr. Rochus Voeller from the University of Minnesota. And Dr. Voeller has worked at the University of Minnesota since 2015. He is an associate professor of surgery at the Division of Cardiothoracic Surgery and a master clinician. In addition to that, he is the director of cardiothoracic surgery at Fairview Southdale Hospital in Edina. Dr. Voeller is a master clinician and Fairview Southdale site director for the Thoracic Surgery Fellowship Training Program. He received his medical degree from the University of Minnesota in 2003. Dr. Voeller is board certified in both surgery and thoracic surgery. His clinical specialties include comprehensive, minimally invasive valve surgery, coronary artery bypass surgery, mitral valve repair and replacement, aortic valve replacement, repair of aortic aneurysms and dissections, surgical treatment of atrial fibrillation, and surgery for heart failure. Join me in welcoming Dr. Voeller.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the invitation. It's really an honor for me to be here and meet you all and speak in front of you. My goal is to give you a brief introduction on minimally invasive heart surgery and what we can offer, and God forbid if anybody needs heart surgery or knows somebody who needs heart surgery in the future, this is something that we offer and is readily available in the Twin Cities. So hopefully I'll give you a 20-minute brief introduction on who we are, what we can provide, and why minimally invasive surgery, in addition to traditional open heart surgery, is something that is beneficial. So again, I'm part of the university group, Division of Cardiothoracic Surgery, that actually has grown significantly in size over the last 5 to 10 years. We're now a group of 8 cardiac surgeons. We perform altogether over 2,000 open heart surgeries of various forms per year on average, or somewhere in that aspect. And all forms of heart surgery, including coronary bypass surgery, which still is the #1 most commonly performed operation in this country. Heart disease is still the #1 killer. So that's not, unfortunately, going away anytime soon, even with stents being available or getting better and better every year. Valve surgery, replacements, and this is where minimally invasive heart surgery really comes to shine, is replacing someone's valve or repairing a valve is something that we're doing more and more as people are aging. Infection of the heart valves, endocarditis, unfortunately, is something that we're seeing more and more, especially with the opioid epidemic, unfortunately. And aortic dissections, tear of the aorta, which is a true, really high-risk emergency we perform more than anybody in the Twin Cities, actually in the tri-state area. and also including heart failure surgeries like transplant. We have probably one of the longest and most successful track record in the country and actually in the world, having done close to 900 heart transplants since the 70s, and that's something that we all do routinely as a group. So, but today I'll focus on minimally invasive heart surgery and why that can be an important thing to know. Again, we're part of the university division, but we do cover multiple hospitals. University Hospital on the left upper is our flagship medical center. We do all the complex and transplants, all the big operations are performed there. But at Southdale Hospital, which is where I spend most of my time, we do a fairly high volume of routine valve surgeries and bypass surgeries and whatnot. We also go to the VA Medical Center, which is one of the biggest VA heart surgery programs in the country, and we've been doing that for several decades now. And St. Joe's Hospital, which unfortunately closed down recently, but we relocated to St. John's over on the east side. And Hennepin County Medical Center in downtown, we also perform all their heart surgery. So 5 hospitals with 8 surgeons. We're a fairly busy group. Now what makes us unique and I think really humbling to me is that open heart surgery actually has the roots. It all began in the 50s here in Minnesota. So for those who don't know, Dr. Voeller, who was a true pioneer, who really is to us regarded as the father of open heart surgery, was our first leader at the University of Minnesota in our division. And this is him in the early 1950s performing one of the world's very first open heart surgeries here at the University Hospital. The university, in fact, has the very first in cardiovascular medicine, not only the first open heart surgery, but development of the first real functional heart and lung machine, which we still use today and kind of a similar concept. It really allowed us to repair defects in the heart and do all types of heart surgery. That was all developed and really invented here, including the first pacemaker that eventually led to formation of Medtronic and a few other giant medical companies that really started in this Twin Cities area and still has a big presence today. So it's a pretty special and humbling place to really be involved in this, I think, exciting and really rapidly changing field. Dr. Voeller, I think, was an amazing maverick and a true hero. Most of us don't know this, but he actually had a lot of personal struggles too. At age 31, he was diagnosed with a highly malignant, unusual parotid gland cancer, so cancer of his salivary duct in his cheek. So he underwent a major operation from a neck all the way to the sternum. He had a lymph node dissection, radiations to his chest and his neck, and you can see a lot of his pictures. He's a little contorted. His neck is really contracted, and that's why he got that. At any rate, despite that, he recovered after given a 5% survival rate. He beat that and became a pioneer in heart surgery. And unfortunately, his surgical career ended at age 55 because he developed pretty premature cataract from all the radiation he received. But still, for us, anybody in heart surgery, he's still regarded as the father of open heart surgery and really performed the world's first successful open heart surgery right here in Minnesota. It's a plaque of him right in one of our buildings, and I walk by that almost every day, and it's pretty humbling to be at least a small part of a succession of a rich traditional history here. There's an interesting book that's out there called King of Hearts, and it's an easy, quick read, several hundred pages, but it kind of describes how all the pioneers in Minnesota formed a group to perform the first successful open heart surgery and how things evolved afterwards. So moving on to open heart surgery, what is traditional open heart surgery today in 2021? Most people would probably imagine heart surgery being on something that, your chest is cracked wide open all the way, and you have a couple surgeons or several pairs of hands in your chest, tubes going in and out of the heart, and it's a major invasive operation. In a sense, that's still true, and a lot of heart surgeries are still performed that way, but this is traditional heart surgery with big instruments and heart-lung machine, and in a lot of sense, a lot of things have kind of stayed the same since the 1950s when heart surgery was born, but Fortunately, a lot of improvements in technology and a lot of research and development have evolved to a point where we don't necessarily have to always do big major open heart surgery where we crack the chest open, or what we call a sternotomy, where we divide the sternum completely in the middle, and we spread it widely, and after we're done with the surgery, we put it back together with stainless steel wires, and you're laid up in the hospital for about a week or so if everything goes perfectly, and there's a lot to recover from a full sternotomy like that. You can't lift more than 10 pounds for about 2 months, and it's a fairly big operation and invasive procedure. So if there's any way we can do operations to the heart without doing that, that would be obviously a huge benefit to the patient. So, and the big thing with the sternotomy is that the sternum can fall apart. It doesn't happen often, but less than 1% of the time it could not perfectly union or reapproximate together, and you can get some clicking or sternal pain chronically, or worse, you can get a sternal wound infection, which is a really, really bad thing. So 1% of the time or less, but 1% is too much. If we can avoid this, that would be much better for the patient. So that's where minimal invasive heart surgery comes into place. So that term is kind of used loosely, I would admit, and a lot of surgeons might consider their operation minimal invasive, and other surgeons may disagree with that. But I think that the commonality of the term is that minimal invasive heart surgery means doing an incision that's alternative to a full sternotomy incision like you saw. So if that's a partial incision, sure, that's a partial sternotomy or less invasive form of heart surgery. But I think what's even better and probably the best is a mini thoracotomy, which means a really tiny 1 to 2 inch incision between the ribs off the side. And a lot of heart surgeries, particularly valve surgeries, can be done through that approach. And you're not cutting through any bone tissue whatsoever. Pain's much less. You're in the hospital less than traditional open heart surgery, and your recovery time is much less compared to what you would have to recover from a full sternotomy incision. So an example of a full sternotomy incision is on the left. The heart's exposed, and you can do any heart surgery through that incision, but a lot of valve surgery now can be done without having to make that incision. You just make a small enough incision between the ribs, typically on the right side, and you can access what you need to and just see enough to perform, for example, a mitral valve repair, which I'll show you a few examples of. The advantages are, as you can imagine, it reduces a lot of trauma and pain for the patient, decreased blood product use and transfusions, which has resulted in better outcomes and survival. Recovery time is no question a lot shorter than a full sternotomy. Better cosmetic results, and patients just really are much happier if you can do it through a less invasive incision. And the operations that can be done through these approaches, we can do it safely, just as safe as a full sternotomy incision, and avoids all the sternal wound complications like chronic pain or infection, which, like I said, only happens about 1% of the time. But if you're that 1 out of 100, you're not going to be very happy. So advances in imaging technology, robotic surgery, instrumentation, and all these things have really allowed us to kind of push the envelope and do a lot of these types of heart surgeries without making a full incision in the chest. So some examples of minimally invasive instruments that we utilize, a lot of them look like chopstick instruments, so they're designed to work on the heart and do whatever we need to do through a small axis incision, but without actually having your hands or fingertips inside the chest. So an example of minimally invasive mitral valve surgery, a lot of these can be done through a limited small incision between the rib spaces on the right side. And using these instruments and a special camera, we can do full deal mitral valve surgeries through a tiny limited incision. And I'll show you a couple examples of that. This is a recent patient that underwent a minimally invasive mitral valve surgery through a right mini thoracotomy incision. Tiny 1.5 incision, that's all it really takes for us to access to the mitral valve. This is a female, same type of incision, but really small compared to a full sternal incision. This is looking from above the surgeon's head again. This is full deal heart surgery going on with a tiny 1-inch incision and doing a mitral valve repair. Quite different from the view of a full open sternum that you saw earlier. So this is mitral valve surgery going on with minimally invasive instruments. And that's what the incision looks like when we're done. So a little over 1 inch. There's some pain, but patients recover so much dramatically faster than having someone's chest cracked open and not being able to lift and do all that and drive for 4 weeks. With this type of incision, the recovery time is fairly limited. A lot of patients, when I see them back in 2 weeks in clinic, they're pretty much back to full activity. So it is, in my mind, definitely a game changer. A couple examples of this is a patient 2 weeks in follow-up clinic after open heart surgery for mitral valve repair and a tiny incision without, another example, without having the chest cracked open. So let's move it on to mitral valve surgery. That's one area, subspecialty that we do a ton of volume and we're very successful in doing mitral valve repair surgery. And I'll tell you why that's significant, particularly with minimally invasive surgery. This is what a normal human working mitral valve looks like. It's a two-cusp structure that works as a one-way valve. So when the heart squeezes, that valve should only allow blood to eject from the heart and not go backwards. You've probably all heard of mitral valve prolapse or mitral valve regurgitation. It's a mitral valve disease where the leaflets start to leak a lot. So the leaflets get injured or they become floppy. So on the bottom right corner, you can see one of the leaflets is not going in the direction below like it should, so one's flail going back upward. So the heart is basically pumping, but the blood is flowing backwards. So mitral valve prolapse disease is actually fairly common in this country and in the industrialized world. And really, when it becomes severely regurgitant with symptoms or no symptoms, the standard of care is to repair or replace the valve. And that can be done through a minimally invasive access. So I'll show you a couple examples of degenerative mitral valve disease. These are all forms of mitral valve prolapse. These valves are all abnormal. They're really thickened and redundant. Some have ruptured cores and torn leaflets, and they're all leaking severely. And these are the valves that we frequently see for a repair. It can be replaced with artificial valves, so I'm sure you heard of patients or people having valve replacement surgery, and that's definitely something that has been done for over a half a century now, but there are definitely downsides to replacing someone's valve with artificial valves like this. So the top right is a typical mechanical valve that we use, particularly in younger patients. They're very durable and they've improved a lot over the years, but it still requires people to be on blood thinners for every day for the rest of their lives. So that's definitely a downside to be on Coumadin every day. If you can avoid that, that'd be great. The alternative is an artificial valve that's tissue, like on the middle upper section. Those are pig valves or heart valves that are made from pig tissue or cow tissue. There are no metal compartments to it or metal forms, so it doesn't require blood thinners, but they have a limited longevity. So tissue valves on average will last 10 to 15 years at the most. So in a younger patient in particular, you're setting somebody up for multiple redo procedures in the future. And that has problems associated with it, obviously. So that's, if you can repair someone's valve without putting all these artificial valves in, that would definitely be a huge advantage. And a lot of mitral valves can be repaired without replacing it with these types of valves. There's various different methods to do that, and we won't bore you with that today, but basically a lot of these techniques can be done through a minimally invasive access. So if you can repair someone's valve without replacing it, in addition minimally invasively, that's the best, least invasive, successful way to cure a leaky mitral valve today in 2021. The reason why you want to repair it, in addition to avoiding blood thinners and redo surgeries from the valves given out, is that the survival is actually much better. So this is a simple curve that describes patients with a leaky mitral valve who underwent surgery from repair versus replacement. And multiple studies have shown over the years, they follow these patients, up to 10 years plus, they actually live longer if you had a mitral valve repair as opposed to a replacement. And that's because you're avoiding blood thinners, all the bad things that can happen, redo surgeries with valves giving out, wearing out in the future. So that's why it's important to go to a center that does a lot of mitral valve surgery and offer successful repair. I'll finish up with a case example. This is a 39-year-old gentleman that we recently operated on. Healthy guy with virtually really no symptoms. If you're healthy, even if you have severe leaky mitral valve, you may not really have that many symptoms initially. This is an ultrasound that we use to study the valves, and it can show why the valve's leaking, how it's leaking, and how much it's leaking. So this is an example of a mitral valve prolapse involving the posterior leaflet leading to torrential mitral valve regurgitation. So, but this is a good case for a mitral valve repair. Young person, healthy otherwise. You want to avoid artificial valves if at all possible, and not commit them to being on Coumadin for the next 40 years. I think everyone's done eating, so I can show you this, but basically it's a 2-minute clip of an intraoperative movie showing what a mitral valve, minimally invasive mitral valve repair looks like. It's a typical setup. Incision. So 1-inch incision in the right chest. And that's electrocautery. That's basically a knife that we use to cauterize the tissue so there's very minimal bleeding when we cut through the soft tissue. It's a special retractor we use to kind of splay open the incision without actually cutting it, so we can actually access the heart. That's the lung we're seeing. And we do make a small incision in the groin to go in the heart-lung machine. That's the plastic tubes to drain the heart and fill the heart back up, or the body back up with oxygenated blood when it goes through the heart-lung machine.
Better, thank you. Do you mind dropping mine a little bit towards
And now we're putting a scope in to really help us aid in looking at the heart structure. And now the sound is gone, but basically, so that's the pericardium, that's the heart, the sac that fills the heart, that envelopes the heart, and everybody has a pericardium. So we open that to get access to the heart. That white structure you see below running sideways is the phrenic nerve, so that's the nerve that actually supplies the diaphragm so you can breathe, so we're careful not to injure that. Now that's part of the heart structure you see. That purple thing is called the right atrium. Heart's still beating, but it's empty, so it's not ejecting at all because we're on the heart-lung machine. Now we're dissecting around the critical structures around the heart. The bottom two barrels you see are the pulmonary veins. Those are the structures that are draining into the left atrium. And we're creating a space between the right and left atrium there to eventually open the left atrium to access the mitral valve. And this is all done through that small 1-inch incision off the side between the rib spaces. And an operation like this takes about 3 to 4 hours. Everything goes perfectly. Straightforward case. So typical day we would perform 1 to 2 operations like this a day. There's a plastic tube that goes into the aorta, so that's the aorta, the vessel that comes off the heart, and we use that to deliver medication to actually stop the heart, arrest the heart, and protect it while we're working inside the heart. So that's what we're doing there. We're dividing the structure between the aorta and the pulmonary artery there. That's so we can put a clamp on the aorta so we can actually stop the heart. So that's what we're doing there, where the clamp is going on the aorta. So now there's no flow that's coming outside the heart anymore. We're administering the cardioplegic solution through that plastic tube. So the heart's now stopped, and now we're able to completely empty the heart and open the heart. So that's the left atrium that's opened. And then we just put in a special device to retract, open the left atrium, and that's the mitral valve that we're seeing. So that's a classic setup for a mitral valve repair or replacement through a small incision off the side. That's the patient who had that flail posterior leaflet, and there was a little structure that we trimmed off that was a ruptured cord. So now we're implanting multiple artificial neocords, we call it, they're Gore-Tex cords, to replace those ruptured cords to repair that leaflet that's flailing. So we reattach the posterior leaflet so we can reapproximate the posterior leaflet back to a normal position, so the repair is, so the valve is now fully competent again. So that's a fully competent valve. That's what it normally should look like. There's another ultrasound looking at a repair after the surgery. We wean the patient off the heart-lung machine, and we do an echocardiogram to look at the heart and make sure the repair looks good. And that's what the valve should normally look like. It's fully competent, and the heart function looks good. And this patient did really well and went home in about 4 days. So I think I'll wrap it up in a little over 20 minutes. So in conclusion, I just want to say that minimally invasive heart surgery today in 2021, I think really should be the gold standard for a lot of heart surgery procedures, including mitral valve repairs. It's just as safe as a conventional open sternotomy heart surgery, but with less, insult to the patient. The recovery is much, much faster. It's actually cost effective for the hospital system, for a healthcare system as well, because patients don't require as much hospital length of stay and other resources and medications and pain and things like that. Mitral valve surgery in particular, whether it's minimally invasive or open traditional sternotomy, I want to say it's definitely important to go to a reference center and go to a surgeon that does a lot of these procedures, because I think you saw earlier that repair really is beneficial, as you actually live longer if you had a repair than an artificial mechanical or a tissue valve replacement. And the more the group or the reference center or the surgeon does, the more repairs you do, the better you get, and the higher repair success rate. So you want to go to a place that doesn't do, 2 or 3 repairs a year, but 100 repairs a year. And I think the trend now, and the cardiologists are all aware of this now too, is that patients with a severely leaking mitral valve, even if you feel fine, we're recommending repair much earlier because it's shown to be beneficial. You eventually need it addressed, and it's much better to get it done sooner, even if you're feeling fine, because eventually patients do decompensate. So that's all I have, and I'll try to answer any questions. Thank you. Yes.
Do you sew the pericardium again? It's such a fine skin.
That's a good question. I'll repeat the question. Yeah, the question is, do we sew the pericardium back together after heart surgery? The answer is usually not. Sometimes we'll reapproximate it, especially for younger patients or congenital heart surgery patients, infants and children who we expect they'll come back for redo operations. Some surgeons like to put it back together loosely so it'll help us with the redo procedure. It's a little less scar tissue around the heart, maybe, if you do that. But we don't like to sew it really watertight because it could form fluid or blood around the pericardium, and patients can get in trouble. So we, most of us actually just leave the pericardium opened, and people do just fine without a pericardium. Yes, sir.
What would be the cause of a leaky valve in a young patient like you were showing?
Good question, yeah. It depends on the type of valve, but when we're talking about mitral valves specifically, the most common cause in this country would be degenerative disease, so just aging and weakened tissue. This is something that happens as you age, but a lot of it could be infection, like endocarditis, bloodstream infections, rheumatic disease, which isn't really common in this country, but in industrialized or third world countries, strep infections, things like that. Rheumatic fever can cause leaky valves. It's not that common in the US, but we do see them. So it can leak from various reasons. It can also leak from heart failure itself. When the heart kind of tends to dilate from coronary ischemic heart disease, the mitral valve can also start to leak. So, but a lot of repairable valves are from just degenerative disease from aging. But even if you're 30, you can have that if you're unlucky. Yes, sir.
what's it like the first time you do one of these procedures? I know you've done many, many of them,
Yeah.
but the first time, what's that like? If you can repeat the question.
The question was, what does it feel like to do a first-time heart surgery? Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, it's very humbling. It's very gratifying, but I would say it's not all cases go 100% the way you want to. So it's a very humbling profession. But every case, even today, after having done quite a few of them, it's exhilarating when things go great and patients do well. You see them in follow-up, and they all do great. So I think, the first patient that I ever did, I remember out of practice, was a avid marathon runner. He was a very active guy, but had significant corner disease. So I do remember that. But to be honest, every case I do the feeling is just as good as the very first one.
Thank you, Dr. Voeller. That was incredible. I'm glad I did eat lunch before I saw that 2-minute video. And then thank you for sharing the story about Dr. Lillahai. I worked at St. Jude Medical as my first job out of college, and I actually met him, and he was such a special person at St. Jude Medical. I want to thank you, and the Noon Rotary likes to thank you. And for Literary and Peace to Water and Health, Rotary is a global network of 1.2 million problem solvers who unite to take action, to create lasting change, to better our world. To honor your presentation, we will make a donation to Every Meal, formerly known as the Sheridan Story, an organization focused on providing weekend and other food gap programs to over 10,000 children in the Twin Cities metropolitan area. Again, thank you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Voles. That was great. Next week, we have Manolis Women in Leadership Award, and Kathy Rendelman, who was last year's winner, will be our speaker next week. And we're looking for nominations. So see Jennifer Benarat. If you have somebody you would like to nominate, we need it by tomorrow. And looking ahead, our Vocational Happy Hour is May 5th. And our leadership series is May 18th, and the speaker will be Eric Norman talking about decision making. I want to thank all of you for being here live, and those of you on Zoom. Hope Academy, Jamie and Julie, thanks so much for being here today. And Julie Westbrock, thanks so much for being a member. Nice to have you as a member. And Dr. Voeller. I'd like to leave you now with a quote. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. Helen Keller. Meeting adjourned.